Well, hello everybody. So today, I'll start us off with a story, and then lead us into practice. And so we're going to be doing both a combination of listening and watching. So using our eyes and ears today. And if anyone, I know none of you are new, but in case anyone watching this on video afterward is new to this practice, you can just find yourself a comfortable seat, somewhere comfy to sit in, outside or inside, doesn't matter, and let yourself just get comfortable, feel the earth beneath your feet while I'm telling my story, and then you can just settle yourself in, and I'll guide you through the practice. So I was at my desk here the other day, and I was typing away, doing something on the computer, when I heard these crows alarming. And it wasn't a very intense alarm, but it was consistent. And so I just started asking myself some questions. I was like, sometimes when they do their alarms, like that sort of level of alarm, they they could be talking about each other. Like sometimes they have sort of like intertribal wars, with other crows. Especially this time of year, things are changing, young are growing up and whatnot. And so in the springtime, we see a lot of that. Anyway, so I was hearing that out the window and I was just like, what are they talking about? And I got curious. And then I could hear, because I think my door was even open, I could hear a wren start to alarm. And then I heard a catbird alarm, and I was like, all right, something's definitely going on. It's not just the crows talking to other crows, something's happening. So I tried to get a sense of where they were looking and how high they were up in the tree. And it seemed like they were kind of mid height, maybe like 15 feet or so. And they were looking downward when they were talking, but they weren't freaking out, they were just like upset. But the wren was really upset, and the catbird was pretty upset. And I couldn't see where the catbird and the wren were, but I could hear them kind of in the vicinity of where the crows were alarming. So I just started to ponder. I was like, who could that be? Who is the source of the alarm right now that I can't see? And I really wanted to see it. And I did end up actually, you don't always get to see the source of alarm. And so it's for me a great joy when I can, and I can sort of figure out who it might have been. And so anyway, so yeah, so I did figure out what, not that I figured it out, but I did make a guess, and my guess was actually right. And I'm going to tell you at the end of our session what critter it was that revealed itself at the end. And so you can ponder that throughout the sit. Don't get too sort of distracted by it. I don't want you to have your own experience today, but I will tell you who it was. And it inspired today's practice because it's really helpful to start to pick up on the different layers and subtleties within the calls, and start to learn our friends, our neighbors who are around us, and their different levels of alarm call, like, and that basically can reveal who is there, and help us in all sorts of ways. So let's begin. All right, so go ahead, and you're in your comfy place, wherever you are, inside or outside, and just feeling your connection with the earth right now. And just start to notice your breath. Noticing how deeply or shallow your breath travels through your body right now. See if you can go along that journey with your breath from the first moment it enters your body, where it travels to, and then as it leaves. And now go ahead and find a point off in the distance to look at, something to let your eyes focus on. Make sure there's some detail that you can pick out on it so you know you're focused. Still being connected to your breath with your mind. So you're being mindful of your breath. And then as you're focused on that point in the distance, Now just let the rest of your vision, your peripheral vision, start to soften. So your central vision is going to stay focused on that one point, but then everything else around you is just going to get soft and going to expand out as far as you could possibly see right now. And don't forget above and below. So we're expanding in all directions. Just notice what you can see, what comes into your awareness right now. Still tapping into your breath and the journey it's traveling through your body. Now noticing any sensations you might feel on your skin. Might be the sun, could be the wind, or if you're inside, can you feel the air moving? Just the little hairs on your skin. Nice work. So as much as you can today, you can just let yourself stay in owl eyes, which is this widened expand vision. Let yourself stay in that softened vision, unless of course there's something that piques your interest, then for sure go ahead and focus on that, or even put your binoculars to it if you want to, if you've got binoculars with you today. And so we're going to start with our ears first. And you're just going to almost forget about your eyes. Your eyes are just what you're looking at is almost inconsequential. You're going to really bring your attention to your ears. And first, what I want you to do is listen for a sound that's the loudest sound in your environment right now. Something very, very prominent, very loud, almost distracting even. Let yourself just explore that sound right now without any judgment or needing to define it. Just explore it as if you're getting to meet a new friend. That's great. And if your sound is one that's consistent and prominent on your landscape, maybe it's just going to stay with us the whole practice. That's perfect. If it's one that was just, for a moment or two, that's okay as well. What we're going to do right now is we're going to look for increments. So now I'd like you to find a sound that's just a little bit quieter than the loudest sound. So you're going to listen for something that's just a little bit quieter. Noticing how that sound is different or unique. Is there any relationship between the two sounds, or are they independent of each other? And now you can take it one increment quieter. So listening for a sound that's even quieter than the one you just heard, just a little bit. And again, like you're getting to meet a new friend, just introduce yourself to that sound, get to know it, be curious about it. Do any of the sounds that you're hearing right now, any of the three that you've focused on, share anything in common? See if you can find a commonality in their sounds. Excellent. And now let's go another increment quieter. So searching the landscape. So now we're getting quieter, so you might have to stretch your ears a bit. You might even have to go outside of your landscape, but maybe not quite just yet. And if you're indoors, it's perfectly fine to be listening to mechanical or human-made sounds right now. It works just as well. Noticing if there's a rhythm with this sound and how is it unique or different or similar to the rhythms of the other sound you were hearing. Is one faster or slower? Do their beats sound the same? Whatever questions come to your mind. Okay, and let's go one increment even quieter. So again, you might have to really stretch your ears to hear this one. Just remain curious and open. For some of you, it might be challenging. You might find a sound that's very close to you or a sound that's very far away. Let's do one final increment quieter. Might think like, oh, how can I get even quieter? Just try, just play with it and see what you come across. And now, one at a time, I'd like you to walk yourself through the landscape, finding those sounds again, all the different increments, starting from the quietest that you were just most recently familiar with, to the next loudest and the next loudest, until you get all the way back to the very loudest sound, if they're all still on the landscape. Good work. So now we're going to shift our attention to our eyes. Now, you don't have to forget about the sounds with this one. Allow them to be there because you just made friends with a number of different sounds. And so you may interact with them again as we're using our eyes and bringing our attention more to our eyes. So, similar to how we did with our ears, let's look for something in our visual frame that is a really prominent sight, something that's moving quite a bit. There's a lot of activity happening with whatever it is that this one is. And so let yourself get not distracted, but drawn into whatever this sight is. And again, get to know it. Ask yourself questions that bring out some curiosity and wonder. And if, like for me today, it's raining, so the rain happens to be causing lots of motion out there, you can just stay in owl eyes. You don't have to focus on any one particular site. If there's just kind of a lot, and maybe the a lot is what is going to be the most prominent for you right now. So oftentimes owl eyes is a little bit easier to focus when there's a lot of motion happening. All right, good work. So now I'd like you to take yourself to an increment of a little less motion. Doesn't have to be significant, but just a little less motion than the most prominent sight. And just notice if you're still tapped into the sounds you were familiar with before. And as a little test for yourself, you can see if you can keep the most prominent sight, the one that's got a lot of motion to it, in your vision while you're also looking at that less prominent moving item, whatever it is out there. Okay, great. So let's take it one increment less. So a little less motion, not quite so much movement as the one before. Now one more layer, one more increment less of motion. And now do your best to see if you can keep all of those sights in your vision right now. So again, you might have to use owl eyes for this. That's usually what makes it more easy. But just be mindful, be conscious of the fact that you're looking at all of them. So kind of go through each one from the least motion to the most motion and see if you can hold them all in your vision right now. All right, and now for the big test. So go ahead and keep all of those motions in your vision. And now I want you to layer on the sounds. So you're going to be conscious of what you're seeing with your eyes and conscious of what you're hearing with your ears, trying to find those friends you became familiar with just a little while ago. Just be nice and gentle with yourself. You can go back and forth. Just flow with it really gently. Okay, so for the last moment or two, just close your eyes. Let yourself just be with whatever it is that comes to you right now. And you can offer gratitude for all those that you interacted with this morning. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And bring yourself back to the group right now. And if you need to head out or leave, that's perfectly fine. Thank you for coming. And if you'd like to stay for our chat at the end, you're also invited to do so. So, as always, I'd like to open it up to anyone who would like to share their experience and what arose for you during that practice, whatever it may have been. So, and then of course, we always are interested in any stories that people have to hear or have to share about things during their week. But let's save those for after people get a chance to share about this moment right now. So if you have something to share, just raise your hand. Yeah, Claudia, go for it.
Well, it was interesting to me that, most of the louder sounds I was hearing were man-made sounds. So there were a couple of lawnmowers going and, cars in the distance. And it was interesting to me that I really had to concentrate for some of them to figure out just exactly where they were coming from. And, imagine just how far away is that? So that was very interesting. And then when we did the motion, I had there were several woodhouse jays and Eurasian collared doves that were just really flying around all over. And there were, there's a pair of the Eurasian collared doves, and they were, flying here and there and lighting on the wires and the trees. And there was another dove. I don't know if it was had been one of their young or what, but they kept chasing it off. They were not going to let it light where they were. So, but it was interesting. And then to get down to the quieter and slower, that was meditative. That was really nice. The my slowest thing was the clouds moving, and that was fun. They're just barely moving. We're supposed to have rain pretty soon, but the clouds are just kind of barely moving in very slowly.
Oh, that's lovely, Claudia. It makes me so curious about the jay or not the jays, but the doves, because they usually
Yes.
think of doves as sitting still for a while. So that's interesting that
Oh,
they were chasing that one off. And yeah, I
yeah.
wonder about your perception of it. If it was the young one that they're like, all
Yeah,
right,
I have no idea. Or just, oh, you're not us.
yeah, yeah, it was different somehow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that. What's would like to share?
Okay.
Go for it, Della.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for this nice sit this morning. It's like a reset after a busy weekend, and reset, slow down, and listen. And I noticed this morning we have a lot of hummingbirds, and I always say they make a smooching sound in the trees, but they make a lot of other sounds too. And so this morning I was listening to their little pips and squeaks, and even their wings when they fly by. So I'm really grateful to have all those hummingbirds this morning.
Yeah, and all the different ways you got to know them today too, whether I mean, it sounds like you already knew those calls of them, but just still to like spend time with the different types of sounds that their bodies and their, other parts of them make. That's awesome. Thanks, Della.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, I know for me, I felt so much joy today when I was looking out, because I noticed that the rain, when it would hit the leaves of the tree, it would kind of smack it, it would drop and it would sort of smack and let me see if I can do like the leaf would go like that. It would just sort of smack down. But then there were times where the whole branch would move. So there was like two different motions. One was like the smack of the drop of the rain, and the other was the whole branch that sometimes moved, not always, but sometimes. And I don't know if it was the wind or if it was like just it got lots of different parts of rain hit it in different places, and so the whole branch came down. But it was just fun to see the different kinds of motion that the rain, and again, maybe the wind was, it's really subtle, like air moving right now, but that whatever was out there was causing. And I hadn't realized that before, that I was like, oh yeah, the rain's dropping on the leaves, but there's like layers within that and like what that causes out there. And it was really just fun to be with that this morning. Yeah, Anne, go for it.
I noticed when you said when we combined them, how much a lot of mine was caused by wind. The clouds are moving, they're moving the tree. I'm hearing the rushing, the crickets, the insects, their sounds. They were intertwined, the sounds and the motion. So it was all part of it. And
Wow.
sometimes when you got down to the real quiet, I thought, well, maybe I'm not hearing something. So I'm gonna imagine what the sound of that. We've got some turkey vultures flying over. What does the sound of their wings? What would their wings be making right now?
Yeah.
So when you were getting really quiet, but it's all with the wind. When
Wow.
you're looking at the
Yeah.
notes, and today it was all connected. So
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you try to imagine the sound. There's interesting things that can happen when we do that. If you can't hear, if you maybe you see something way off in the distance and you don't know like what it could be or what the sound is making, like if you try to imagine it, yeah, interesting things can happen. So I'm glad that you tried that. That's great, Anne. And I love the theme of wind all around you, you know? Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, go for it. Gabrielle.
Um, that reminds me that I was doing a lot of imagining too. I have a lot of bees and fig beetles in my tree, but I couldn't really hear them because of the man-made cars that I kind of couldn't tune out. So I just imagined because I know what they sound like, and that was cool.
Yeah, right. You knew that, of course, they were making their sound because they're moving around. And so that's great. I love that. How far away would you say they were from you?
Oh, maybe 10 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. And what were the type of beetles, did you say?
Big beetles.
Beetles. Okay.
Or
Where?
June. I don't know. We get both June beetles, the big green ones
Yeah. Where are you located?
in Southern California.
In California. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? I'll go. Linda. Was that yeah, hand up? Sure.
Yeah, I did have my hand up. Excuse me. And I actually got it unmuted this morning. Well, I really enjoyed that a lot. It was meditative for me too, but initially there was so many bird sounds this morning, and at every level I could hear them close up and then intermediate and then far in the distance. So many different bird sounds, and occasionally I could identify one, and I found myself getting sidetracked, like trying to ferret out who was who was calling, who was singing, who was talking. And I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, okay, I gotta stop. And I just let myself just kind of enjoy it. So there was all these wonderful bird sounds, and then I did notice that when the wind picked up a little bit, that they dropped off a little bit, but that could have been I just didn't hear them very well. But then I could hear them again, and now there's a bird in the Canadian red cherry next to me, and it's so thick with leaves still, and it's dark leaves, and it won't let me see it very well, and so I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, so I really enjoyed it. It really connected me to what was going on and made me realize again. I mean, I realize this a lot with these sessions that there's so much going on that I miss. So anyway, it was really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I love all the layers that you tap into there with your birds and how active, like you hear so much where you are. It's just a beautiful thing. It makes me think of what I've started to notice I'm always curious during a rainstorm or a thunderstorm, at what moment do the birds really hunker down and stop singing and just, go into kind of hiding? And then what moment do they come out? And would I have made the same decision? Would I have come out when they came out? Would I start to sing when they start to sing? And they often come out earlier. I'm always like, oh, the storm's still going on. And then all of a sudden I hear them and I'm like, wow, it must be over. Even though it's still raining, like the actual sort of danger or the threat is over. And they know way before I do that it's over. And the other thing I noticed is that there's always a frog that sings like right as the sound or the storm begins. It's like usually a couple minutes in when like the thunder starts, and that's when the frog sings. And I'm just like, you love it. Like you love when the storms come. The frog's just like, yeah, whereas everybody else is quiet, but the frogs are like, yeah, this is our time. Or like our friends are here, or whatever. But But yeah, it's really fun to start to listen to the sounds and get to know the layers. So one thing I wanted to do was to share the answer to my bird alarm mystery. Does anyone have a guess about who it could be? I know some of you came in a little bit later after I told the whole story, but there was some crows alarming, and it was kind of a mild sort of alarm, but it was an alarm. And then the wren, it was a Carolina wren, started to alarm, and then a catbird alarmed as well. And then I did see the critter come out, so it revealed itself. But I'm wondering if anyone has a guess based on the description. And I can, if you have more questions for me, I can certainly answer more questions. But anyone have a guess about? And I said the crows were about mid-tree height, which here is maybe like 15 feet or so. And the wren sounded lower. I'm not sure how high, but maybe like there was a fence in my neighbor's house, so it was maybe like fence height, which is like 6 feet tall or something. Yeah, Julia, go for it. And then Della.
My first guess would always be a cat.
Yeah.
But I don't have a clue really, other than that I'll always blame a cat first.
Always blame a cat. Okay. Is there anything in the description of what I said that would indicate cat to you?
Well, I would think that crows would not be afraid of a cat.
Okay.
Smaller birds would.
Okay. So I wonder why the crows would be alarming then, if it was a cat.
Well, they might be alarming other creatures, or they might have just been they're mildly alarming. So they're not maybe alarming to each other, but maybe to other buddies, some of their neighbors.
They could. I don't know that birds necessarily do that. It's my perception of alarms is it's more like when we have a reaction, like if someone scares us, they're like, boo, and we go, ah! It's the bird's alarm is a reaction to something that happens. It's not so much, there's not like intention. Like I have to tell my friend, hey, Julia, watch out. There's a mountain lion over there. It's not that my experience with alarm calls is not so much that as it is just like, mountain lion, mountain lion, mountain lion. They're just saying, they're like expressing what they see, kind of like reacting to what they see. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, Della, you had a guess. What was your guess?
I had a question.
Yeah.
Did you see what was causing the alarm? Did you see it move? Like, did it fly through very quickly, or was it like sitting in a tree or walking on the ground?
Yeah. So I saw it when it came out. I saw it reveal itself like after a while. So it was kind of hidden in the shrubs where I couldn't see anything. All I could do was notice where the birds were. And there was a good like 8 minutes or so that they were constantly alarming for. It was just like alarm, 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 alarm.
Okay. I'm going to guess a small mammal and probably like I'm going to say a cat.
Okay. So house cat or bobcat when you say small mammal?
No, probably a house cat.
House cat. Okay. We have 2 house cat guests. Anyone else? Different guests? Yeah. Anat, go for it.
I'm going for a snake.
Oh, a snake. Yeah. Of course, you're in Israel. You would say snake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, go ahead.
Just because the way you described it, that it was difficult to see, that they were all alarming towards the same direction. That was my guess.
Now, would the crows or like the rave? I think rave is orev. Would the orev would they mildly alarm at a snake, or would they really intensely alarm at a snake?
It depends on the snake, and it depends if they have a nest.
Okay. So no net. We're not nesting right now.
Sure.
Everyone's done nesting, and our snakes here, we have mostly mild snakes. There is one. Most of them, well, again, for birds, it's not really about poisonous snake. It's about like, is it going to eat my young or me? I don't know. Do the snakes there like eat adult birds, or are they just going for eggs?
They're going for the eggs.
The eggs. Okay, so we're past nesting season right now. Does that change your opinion or add to your opinion?
It did. Although my first guess was a sparrowhawk, but I thought when there's a sparrowhawk, then they really scream. I mean, it's really, they're so frightened.
Yeah.
So you didn't say that.
Yeah.
So
So for you all, a sparrowhawk is an Israeli bird is more like our Sharpshin hawk or Cooper's hawk. That would be like what she's referring to. And so yeah, those birds tend to have two different kinds of alarm shapes for sparrowhawks. One is either like like a really loud, quick alarm, or it's silent.
Silent,
right?
Yeah,
Total silent. Yeah. But not so much the consistent, constant calling, right?
Sure.
Those are good guesses. I love this conversation. Anne, did you have something you wanted to add to it? And
I
then
was going to say hawk just because everybody was after it.
in on it. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I usually find out is I can't find it. There's no cat. And then when I go out, the hawk will fly off.
Right. Now, so I did say that the wren was about 6 feet high. Do you think that the wren would want to be below the hawk?
My hawk sometimes, because of the feeders, they'll be
low.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a possibility. All right. And then Linda, you had a guess.
Yeah, I'm just wondering about an owl, because a little owl, like a pygmy, or well, here Western screecher, saw it, but they get up against the trunk and they'll be quiet for a long time, and the birds will alarm. I'm just thought of that because of we had an owl. Actually, it was a pretty big owl that came and sat in a tree just outside our garden, and the birds, I mean, it sat there for almost 10 minutes and the birds never stopped alarming about it, and they would fly around it and fly under it and fly all over. But anyway, it's just a guess. I'm not sure.
What was the level of intensity, would you say, for the alarm? Would you say from a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say that it started out really close to a 10, and that's what brought my attention. And I went out to the garden area to see what was going on. And then it just moderated, but they just kept it up. And the owl just totally, once we figured out there was an owl there, totally ignored them. It didn't faze them in the least. And then he just took off, just totally ignoring all his entourage of, they accompanied it. So anyway, I just thought of that.
That's awesome. Oh, this is so good. Okay, so I'll reveal the answer. So a few things that I said, I'll reiterate some of the important pieces. One is that the crows were mildly alarming. So this is one reason why I did our activity today, where we listened to different types of sounds, different layers of the sounds, right? So getting to know a bird and its calls and knowing is that crow really upset right now, or is it just kind of annoyed, And this was more of there's a bunch of crows in there, and they were just sort of caw, caw, caw. They were not really. When they really get into it, if there was a big owl, for instance, they'd be caw, 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 caw. They freak out, right? Small owls, that's an interesting thing that you said, small owl, because a small owl may elicit, I don't know if the crows would even care too much about it, if they would be in on it, especially be the ones to start the alarm. Small birds for sure go nuts for little owls. They'll freak out about them. I don't even know if a crow would get in on that. I'm kind of curious about that. I'm trying to think. The only times I saw some small birds alarming at a pygmy owl once, and it was just chickadees and titmice and nuthatches and little guys. But there may just not have been crows around at the time. So the other thing I mentioned was the height. So the birds were at between 15 to 6 feet height distance. And so most hawks, most owls are going to be a bit higher, right? Higher up in the tree. And as a bird, you don't want to be below your predator. You want to be above it. So thinking about the fact that they were all, around that height, and they were looking downwards. So at least the crows that I could see were looking down toward the ground, which would indicate something on the ground. And then you have to think about how predators behave. So which predators that we know of that might be on the ground don't mind staying in one place for a long time, have the patience just to sit, right? If you ever see a fox move around, foxes are always on the move. They like never sit still. Even a pregnant, I watched the pregnant mama outside feeding her young pups, and she maybe sat there for like 4 minutes while they fed voraciously, and then she was out of there. You know, it's like they don't ever rest. So getting to know different predator behavior. So what predators that we know like to sit still?
Meow.
The cat.
Meow.
Yeah, cat. So cat was my first guess after I kind of pieced it all together. And then I was like, well, is it a bobcat or is it a house cat? I knew it wasn't a mountain lion. There was like, that would have been a whole different kind of alarm. But I finally got to the point where I said, you know what? I actually think the crows would be really upset about a bobcat, because bobcats are bigger and bobcats are much more a threat to a crow than a house cat would be. I mean, and now we're past the time of like real young birds. So the crows didn't have little kids. If they had their young, they'd be freaking out. If this was like earlier in the summer, the crows would be really upset if it was a house cat. But now we're later, the crow kids are more like teenagers now. They can fend for themselves pretty much. And so I got myself to the point where I was like, yeah, I think they're just bothered, and they've probably even seen this cat before. They just know it's like Joe who lives next door or whatever. I mean, I don't know if it does or not, but and so eventually after a handful of minutes, I did see this little orange tabby cat walk out, and it looks like it's in very good health. And so it certainly would be a threat to the wren and the catbird, and the crows are just like keeping an eye on it. They're just like, all right, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. But they're not going to freak out, you know, over a house cat. But a bobcat might be a freak out for them, might be a different story. So anyway, fun. So thanks everybody for playing. Thanks for playing both with the sit today and then also with the mystery. It's really fun to do mysteries with you all. Yeah, Anne, go for it. Question.
Hey, real quick, I'm going to be traveling for 3 to 4 weeks. So I'm heading out. Della, you're Monterey?
Yes.
Are you? Okay, well,
yes.
I'm in Ohio and both my kids live in California. So I'm looking forward to exploring a lot of different birds, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, North California. Yes. So if I catch you guys, because it's a little earlier and I never know what kind of internet I'm going to have. So I'm looking forward, Della, to exploring shorebirds now. So
good. Well, if you're in Monterey, give me a call. And
I may be through there. I've got one's up San Francisco, one's down Santa Barbara. So we'll be doing all kinds of stuff. But
awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This group has really opened up my curiosity for exploring just other birds. So maybe I'll have to start a bird list.
And if you want to send me an email, and then Della, if you're okay with it, I can share your email with Anne.
Yes.
We'll do that. Okay. I'll do that, Kristi.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
I hope to see you in Monterey.
Well, I'll probably wave.
Okay.
I'll be up in Pacifica.
Okay. Well, if you have questions, give me a call or send me an email.
I'll let you guys take this offline, okay?
Okay.
I'm going.
Lots of love. See you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.